Okay, so you've handed us this pile of 2024 election predictions.
Yeah.
And it's honestly like taller than I am.
Right.
Odds and simulations and expert opinions.
It's a lot.
The whole shebang. And you want to know,
Of course.
with less than 50 days to go.
Yeah.
And those first mail-in ballots are already like landing in mailboxes.
Right.
What's the real story here?
a big question?
What can we actually get out of all this data?
Yeah, well, let me tell you,
Yeah.
this is not your average election.
It's
Not even close.
It's like nothing we've ever seen.
We've got a sitting VP going head-to-head with a former president who's already survived 2 assassination attempts.
I mean, seriously, it's like ripped from the headlines.
That's nuts,
You
man.
can't make this stuff up.
Straight out of a political thriller.
And speaking of unprecedented,
Yeah.
The Hill is saying that the Democrats are in a surprisingly strong position,
Interesting.
especially after that candidate switch.
Right.
But,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
before we even get into all of that,
Okay.
there's one thing every single source we've looked at seems to agree on.
Let's hear it.
This thing is going to be a nail biter.
A nail biter it is.
This isn't just like,
Hype.
yeah, this isn't just hype.
Right.
The data backs it up.
It does.
From 538
Right.
to the Hill and DDHQ,
Yeah.
even those complex election simulations,
Might be over something else.
they're all saying Harris versus Trump,
Yep.
photo finish.
Could be a photo finish for sure.
And get this,
What's that?
some of those simulations are even saying we could be in for another one of those too close to call kind of
Yeah.
situations. You know, where we're like glued to our screens for days
Oh, God.
waiting for the final votes.
The worst.
Oh man, those are brutal.
The worst.
I didn't sleep for like a week after 2016.
I hear you.
And Nate Silver
Okay.
over at the Silver Bulletin,
Yeah.
he's saying that kind of drawn out scenario.
Right.
It's looking more likely this time around.
Oof. Not good.
So buckle up, everybody.
Hold on tight.
It might be a bumpy ride.
Speaking of bumpy rides,
Oh, here we go.
the Electoral College,
Oh boy.
because that's where things could get really interesting.
Oh, I bet.
And by interesting, I mean potentially chaotic.
That's putting it lightly.
Maybe a little.
It seems like every single prediction
Yeah.
is laser focused
Laser focus.
on the same 7 states,
Right.
Wisconsin,
Of course.
Michigan, Pennsylvania,
Always.
the usual suspects.
Right. Right.
But then you've also got Georgia and Arizona,
Okay.
Nevada,
Interesting.
and even North Carolina in the mix.
Wow.
It's wild.
That's a lot.
It's a lot to keep track of.
It is.
And here's the thing.
Okay.
Those 7 states,
Yeah.
they're essentially,
Yeah.
they're holding all the cards.
All the cards.
They're holding the keys to the White House.
It all comes down to
It's all about this concept of the tipping point.
the tipping point. Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, let's break it down. What is this tipping point thing?
So assuming the other states all vote along their predicted lines.
Which, let's be real.
Right.
That's a big assumption.
It is what it is.
Big assumption.
A
But anyway,
jackpot.
assuming that happens, right.
Those 7 toss-up states,
Yes.
they decide everything.
They decide it all.
Whoever wins the majority of those wins the election.
That's how it works.
And Pennsylvania,
Pennsylvania.
according to both the Hill and 270 to win,
Okay.
is looking very, very crucial this time around.
Pennsylvania always seems to come down to the wire.
It really does.
It's like clockwork.
But here's something I found really interesting.
Okay.
In the 270 to win analysis,
Yeah.
they're saying North Carolina
North Carolina.
is acting a bit unpredictable this year.
Unpredictable how? Yeah.
Normally it leans Republican, right?
Right, usually.
But their data this time around
Yeah.
shows
Wow.
a lot more volatility.
Interesting.
It's really anyone's guess
Wow.
which way it'll swing.
So it's like a wild card this year.
Total wild card.
Whoa.
Which, of course, just adds another layer
Exactly.
to this already very complicated,
Yeah.
very fascinating election.
It's a lot.
But
Yeah.
it's important to remember
What's that?
that while the presidency is definitely like the main event,
Of course.
what happens with Congress
Right.
has a huge impact
It does.
on what the winning ticket
Yeah.
can actually accomplish.
Huge implications there for sure.
Right. It's like winning the lottery,
Okay.
but then realizing you left the ticket in your other pants.
Oh, no.
You know, the worst.
That's what it's like if you don't have Congress. You need that control.
Control of Congress is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And from what we're seeing,
Yeah.
the battle for the Senate
Yes.
is shaping up to be
Yeah.
just as intense
Oh, really? Yeah.
as the presidential race.
Wow. Okay. It's going to be close.
Yeah.
Most of the sources we've been looking at,
Right.
like Split Ticket
Yeah.
and Manifold,
Mhm.
they're giving the Republicans an edge.
Okay.
But it's really anyone's game.
So not a sure thing by any means.
Not at all.
And you know what they say?
What's that?
Close races.
Yeah.
Every seat counts.
Absolutely every single one.
It's true.
And if there's one race to watch,
Okay.
it's Montana.
Montana. Interesting. Okay.
Split Ticket is saying
Yeah.
it's looking more and more likely to flip from blue to red,
Wow.
and that could have a ripple effect
Interesting.
across the whole Senate map.
So are you saying that, like,
Yeah.
if that one state flips,
Potentially,
it could flip the entire Senate?
it's possible. Yeah.
Oh,
It's a big deal.
that is huge.
Huge implications.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's the House.
Oh, the House.
Even more unpredictable.
Oh man, the House is always a wild card.
Always a wild card.
So what are we looking at there?
Well, Split Ticket's calling it a race. You could cut the tension with a knife. Yeah, another nail biter.
Another nail biter. Wow.
The Democrats,
Yeah.
they could win it back.
How
But
about
it's going to be those super close races
Right.
where just a few hundred votes make all the difference.
Talk about pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Every vote really does count in that case.
Every single one.
And there was that one race that Split Ticket mentioned.
Yeah, which one?
The something about a scandal
Oh,
in New York's 4th District.
yeah, that's right.
What's going on with that?
So that seat,
Yeah.
it's been held by Republicans forever.
Right.
But with this new spottle,
Mhm.
could swing back to the Democrats.
Oh, wow.
Which would be a
Yeah.
huge deal for their House control hopes.
See, this is why I love these deep dives.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're not just talking about like
Right.
abstract political concepts.
Yeah.
We're talking about like real races,
Exactly.
real people,
The real consequence.
real consequences.
That's what it's all about.
It makes it so much more real.
Yeah,
You know?
it does. It really does.
And it really highlights something
What's that?
that I think we've seen reflected in a lot of these predictions.
Okay.
This idea of governing in the margins.
Governing the margins, yeah.
What does that actually mean? Like in practice?
You know. Well, think about it. Okay.
Let's say Harris wins,
Yeah.
but by a tiny margin.
Right.
And with a divided Congress.
Okay.
Getting anything done in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
It's like
Like what?
walking a tightrope during an earthquake.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Not easy.
Not easy at all.
So instead of like, big, bold policy changes.
Right.
We're more likely to see
Yeah.
what gridlock compromise.
Exactly. A lot more executive orders, probably
Right.
more political maneuvering.
Right.
And I think we could even see a resurgence of third-party movements.
Interesting.
As people get frustrated with the two main parties.
Makes sense. Yeah. And this isn't just some like theoretical scenario.
No,
This is
it's reality.
the reality we're probably facing.
Most likely. Yeah.
And it gets even more complex, I think,
How so?
when you consider what's going on globally.
Right.
With all the international crises and everything.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on.
The U.S. needs a leader who can
Right.
lead and
Yeah.
make decisions
Absolutely.
and not be bogged down with all this domestic gridlock,
You're hitting on a really crucial point here.
which is
These razor-thin margins,
Yeah.
they don't just impact
Right.
who gets to live in the White House.
right.
They impact
Yeah.
how effectively the U.S. can lead on a global scale.
It's true.
Can we negotiate? Can we respond to global challenges?
Right.
You know, these are big questions. And
Yeah.
frankly, it raises questions about
Yeah.
the long-term health of our democracy.
Okay, let's talk about that. This level of polarization,
Yeah.
this constant teetering on a knife edge.
Right.
What does that say about us?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
Like, is this level of division even sustainable long-term?
Yeah.
Can we function as a society
Right.
when there's so little common ground,
Mm,
so much distrust?
yeah.
I think these are questions that every voter needs to consider,
Right.
regardless of who they're voting for.
Regardless of who they're voting for.
There you go.
It's a lot to process,
I mean-
I have to admit.
Yeah.
It can feel a little overwhelming sometimes.
For sure.
But I think amidst all this uncertainty, all this talk of division and gridlock,
Yeah.
I find myself coming back to one fundamental truth. No matter how wild things get, no matter how divided we seem, I always come back to this. Your vote matters.
I mean, that's what it all boils down to, right?
It really does.
All this data, all these predictions,
Yeah.
it's all about that one little thing.
That one very important thing,
You got to vote.
your vote.
It's your voice.
Exactly.
Your chance to make a difference.
And especially in an election like this one,
Oh, tell me about it.
where it's this close.
Right.
Every vote could be the one that
The deciding factor.
tips the scales.
Exactly.
So it's not just about picking the winner.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it's bigger than that.
It's about the big picture.
Yeah, it's about the kind of country we want.
What kind of future are we choosing?
Exactly. Do we want more of this?
More
gridlock, more division.
Ugh, I don't know if I can take that.
Are we ready to
What? Come together.
yeah, find some common ground and actually solve problems?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Right.
A novel concept? I know.
It's a choice.
It is a choice.
It's a choice we all have to make.
We do.
And it starts with
Let's hear it.
engaging in the process,
Yes.
understanding what's at stake,
What are the stakes?
everything,
Pretty much.
and then actually showing up and voting.
That's the most important part.
You know,
On election day.
November 5th.
There it is.
Mark your calendars, everybody.
It's funny because
What's that?
we started this whole thing
Right.
with this mountain of predictions, right?
Yeah.
All these fancy models.
Algorithms.
Simulate.
The experts.
But you know what?
What's that?
The most powerful force in this election
Yes.
isn't an algorithm.
Okay.
It's you.
It's me.
Well, and me.
Okay.
But it's the voters.
The voters, that's right.
It's that,
Right.
that act of civic duty, that
Mhm.
moment when you,
Step into the booth.
you step into that voting booth and you
Yeah.
cast your ballot.
You make your voice heard.
That's what it's all about.
Chills.
You take all this information,
All the data.
all the potential consequences,
The good, the bad.
and you make a choice.
But the future you want.
It's powerful stuff.
It really is.
So if you're feeling like a little overwhelmed by all of it,
A lot.
the noise, the predictions, the everything, the back and forth,
Just remember,
Okay.
your vote matters.
your vote matters.
Get informed.
Yes.
Get engaged.
Be the change.
And get out there and vote.
November 5th.
On November 5th.
Don't forget.
It's your future, after all.
It really is your voice, your vote, your future.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
And on that note,
Yes.
we'll leave you to ponder
Okay.
the weight of it all.
It's a lot.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.